Cool. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our event. My name is John Fristow. I'm a Technology Center Group Director here at the USPTO, and I'll be leading the event today. I'm joined today by Michelle Martin. She's the Division Chief of Patent Examiner Hiring at our Office of Human Resources. So please note that today's session is being recorded. For questions, please use the chat, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. This information session will tell you everything you need to know about the role of a patent examiner and its required qualifications, how patent examiners support the USPTO's mission, and why our team members consider the USPTO a great place to work. So with all that being said, let's jump right in. So today, here's the agenda today. We have a packed agenda for the meeting. We're going to talk about the USPTO's mission and impact, what a patent examiner does, what a patent is, the patent review process, life at the USPTO, and becoming a patent examiner. Next slide, please. So we know that as you seek your next workplace, you want to serve an organization that makes a difference. So let's look at the USPTO's mission. Next slide, please. So for over 200 years, the work at the USPTO has fostered American innovation that changes the world. Patent examiners are skilled engineers and scientists who work closely with entrepreneurs to process their patent applications and determine whether a patent can be granted. This work facilitates the USPTO's mission to protect intellectual property and help businesses quickly move their innovation to market. The impact of this is tremendous, and it protects intellectual property, creates new jobs, and expands commerce. Next slide. So our mission, the USPTO's mission, is to drive U.S. innovation and global competitiveness for the benefit of Americans. And the vision that we use to drive this mission is that we're going to unleash America's potential. So we want as many people inventing as many things as we possibly can, and we want to try to help them protect those ideas. So that's our mission and the vision, the reason why we're doing things. So our goals are to drive U.S. innovation and global competitiveness, promote the efficiency and delivery of reliable IP rights or intellectual property rights. We want to promote the protection of IP against new and persistent threats. We want to bring innovation to impact for the public good. We want to generate impactful employee and customer experience by maximizing agency operations. So again, our goal is to help the world's inventors through the process of protecting their inventions and then giving them intellectual property rights that they can then use as property to help promote the expansion of our economy, the world's economy, not just ours, but the world's economy. Next slide. So I know you've heard this term patent before, and if you're here in this webinar, you probably have heard this term patent before, but some of you might not be completely sure exactly what a patent is. So what a patent is it gives an inventor the right to exclude others from making, using, or offering for sale or selling the invention that they came up with. So in other words, it gives an inventor, the U.S. patent gives an inventor the ability to prevent others from making, using, or selling their invention. So it's excluding other people. They can't use it. I invented something, and then I need the protection for that, and I can get protection for that for 20 years. And there are three types of patents. There are utility patents, which is like how something is made, the ins and outs of something, the pieces and parts of it. There are design patents, which is the aesthetic, how something looks. And then there are plant patents, which are plants that are genetically designed, and you can get a patent for those and protect that intellectual property. Next slide, please. So there's a reason why the USPTO is known as America's Innovation Agency. So when people have an idea, they know they want to protect that idea, they come to our agency and they file for a patent application. And then we have a team of engineers and scientists that help those people, those inventors, gain intellectual property rights for those inventions. And what the engineers and scientists do here, and we'll talk more about this in the coming slides, is they might point out some deficiencies with not necessarily how something works, but how it is written. And they might point out what has been invented before. They might point out several things that help the inventor. And then in turn, that helps the public. And I'll tell you why here in a second. Next slide. So here's where I'm supposed to tell you about my career journey here to the USPTO. So I've been with the office for almost 24 years. My mom got a bookkeeping job with an intellectual property law firm when I was in college, freshman year of college, and or no, sophomore year of college. I'm sorry, and I needed a summer job, and the main attorney in the office asked that I come in and help do some stuff around the office, be a gopher, but also help with like CAD drawings and things like that. So I didn't have a job. This sounded like a great opportunity for me. It was better than working at a McDonald's or something. So I was like, this is wonderful. I'll come in and do that. And there was a couple of things that were really impactful that summer that helped me a lot. He was a former patent examiner. And every time we would start talking about patents, he would tell me how great his patent examiner job was that he had back when he worked at the office and how I should look into it when I was going to graduate. I filed this away, went on through my college career. I also got the opportunity that summer to do some searching for inventions, help draft some patent applications. So there was some experiences I got that were really valuable. Then I went back to school, had other jobs that were also sort of IP related. But senior year, I walked into the job fair and the USPTO's booth was the first booth on the left, just like by kismet or something. I was like, oh, well, I had seen them on the list. I did not anticipate them being the first table I talked to. Stopped there and talked to them. They saw that I had worked for a patent law firm. And back then we could do interviews in person, had an interview the next day, and then I got a job offer not long after that. And then once I got in the office, I was a patent examiner for about 10 years. I was a supervisor for examiners for about 12, and a couple years ago I got a job. Now I supervise the supervisors. So that was sort of my journey, how I got here. Being here is really interesting. You know, if you're at a non-USPTO party, people will be like, "Oh, you work at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. You must see the coolest inventions." And I would go, "Yes, I do." But when I started as an examiner, I worked in valves and fluid handling. And I would say that to people and be like, and they're like, "Oh, what? You must look at hovering cars and all these different things, time machines." I don't even know. They would come up with all these crazy ideas, and I'd be like, "Well, I work with valves." And then their eyes would glaze over and they wouldn't know what I was talking about. And they were like, "What's a valve?" And I had to explain. But to me, the really cool aspect of working with valves every day was that I was getting to see how that technology changed over time. I got to see, like I'll be honest, when I first started in the office in 2002, we had electronically controlled valves. That wasn't new, but a majority of the innovation in that space was in a mechanical nature. It was changing the shape of the valve, the sealing of the valve, and all that sort of stuff. And then by the time I left and became a SPE, a lot more of the technology was based in the more electrical, the control aspects, moving the valve in a certain direction or a certain way. And you could see the progression of that technology. Is when you're a patent examiner, you're working in a specific technology area that you can watch how things are changing and really get to dive in deep into that technology to really understand exactly what's going on. Because it's really important as a patent examiner for you to understand the technology that you're living in, working in every day. So now that you've heard about my experiences, we're going to talk about the day-to-day experiences of a patent examiner. Next slide. So like I said earlier, patent examiners are skilled engineers and scientists that work closely with patent attorneys. And what does a patent examiner do? A patent examiner helps. Patent examiners have a really interesting job. So sometimes it can feel like, okay, if I'm an inventor and I've invented a new tennis shoe that helps people jump higher, and I want to protect that idea, I file a patent application, and you can sort of, from the outside, you can be like, ooh, that must be sort of adversarial. because the patent examiner's job is to say, no, 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 this has been invented before or whatever. A patent examiner, and I'm going to get more into this in a second, their job is to help the inventor get the right protection. So they're also there to help the public not have a burdensome invention. So something that gets too much coverage. So that's a really interesting sort of juxtaposition to be in, where you're helping the public, but you're also helping the inventor at the same time. And you're doing that through the statutes that we have that show an inventor, hey, this has been invented before, or this is an obvious modification, or I'm having some issues understanding the utility of this, things like that. So you're helping you, but your real job is to determine whether or not the invention that the applicant is showing you is something that deserves patent rights. It's a really sort of interesting place to be. And if you look at the next slide, I can kind of dive into this a little bit more. So there are different parts of a patent application. There are that's made up of several parts. There's the specification, the details of the invention. So there's a description of the invention there where it tells you, hey, this is what I'm inventing. Then there are drawings. If it's a mechanical thing, there are like drawings of how the thing works. If it's electrical, there's flow charts and circuit diagrams and things like that. And then at the end, there are claims. And the claims are where the applicant sets out the metes and bounds of their invention. I like to think about it in my head like the invention is a piece of property, because it's intellectual property, and the claims lay out the fence around the property. So what an examiner has to do is, again, what they want to do is they want to help. If you look at this slide, they want to make sure that the claim falls in that center section, what they've actually invented. What the examiner has to do is make sure that they don't narrow the claim too much, so put too much in it so that it's not enforceable. So if you put too much description in a claim, sometimes somebody that's in a similar technology space can just make one little slight change to their invention, and they can say, look, it's different. But if you get the correct amount of coverage for somebody, then they can enforce it against somebody who is trying to innovate in that space as well. But at the same time, you don't want too much coverage. You don't want the fence to be too big, because if you do that, then the public can't innovate in that space like they should be able to. So it's a really fine line that you have to walk, and you learn that fine line through years and years in the office. And we're going to get into the career progression in a second. But it's really important to sort of understand how the words matter within the patent application, and the most important words in the application are in the claims. Next slide, please. So this is an illustration of what an examination process looks like. So again, somebody's invented something. Maybe it's shoes that make you jump higher. They decide they want to be able to protect that idea. So they file a patent application, and the patent application comes here to the office. And then about 14 months-ish after it's filed, it gets in front of an examiner, and the examiner has to go through that process that we sort of talked about. They have to be able to understand the invention, then they compare that to what's been invented before, and then they make a legal determination as to whether or not the person deserves patent rights. So usually that first correspondence with the office is a rejection, usually. Not always, usually. If it's a rejection, the applicant has the opportunity to amend and argue that rejection. Then it comes back, that amendment and argument comes back to the office, in front of the examiner, and the examiner has the opportunity to either reject it then or allow it. And there is multiple off lanes to this road, but and you can allow it at any time during this, and you can reject it sort of at any time during this. And it's really important to and examiners have to figure out when something is allowable, so when it deserves patent rights, and when something is rejectable. There's a lot of gray area to that, but we give a lot of training, and I'm going to get into that in a second, where you start to determine those fine lines. Next slide, please. So here I have a trivia for you the next time you're at your local eatery on a Thursday night when you're doing trivia night. And the question is, who can apply for a patent application in the US? Anyone, anywhere in the world can apply for a patent application except for an employee at the USPTO. And that's because we have access to unpublished patent application documents, and we're also within that technology space, right? A lot of us are within that technology space all the time, and we can see, you might be able to see where the technology is going. That's not fair to inventors in the world. So USPTO employees are the only ones who can't file for patent applications. But it's a fun trivia. You might see that someday. So keep that one in the back of your head. Next slide, please. So now we're going to dive in a little bit to what it's like to work here at the USPTO. Next slide, please. So we have a very competitive salary. It's not just the normal GS scale. We have a special pay rate because, again, we're all engineers and scientists, and we can justify the special pay rate. And you can see the GS level that you would start at within the vacancy announcement. And each GS level, as you progress up the GS levels, you will have different responsibilities within examination. So every time you get a promotion, you have a little more responsibility. So that's okay. And the next slide, please. So what's really interesting about patent examination, and I think this is different than your typical GS job in the federal government, is the promotion potential. So let's say you start as a GS 7 or a 9 or an 11, you can get promotions once. It's a production-based environment. So you have to work, you have to produce a certain amount of those office actions. Those are either rejections or allowances. You have to produce a certain amount of those every 2 weeks. And the requirement for how much you have to produce is based on your GS level. But every time you start as a GS 7, you have to produce the least amount in your career, or a GS 9 or an 11, it's the least amount in your career. And every time you get a promotion, you have to produce a little bit more. So all of those promotions from a GS 7 to a GS 13 are non-competitive promotions. And then a GS 14 promotion, you have to go through a couple of reviews in order to become a GS 14. But all those promotions, you're not really competing against anyone but yourself. And that's different than your typical federal government agency where you get to that sort of GS 12 area, and you have things start to get really competitive, and you have to wait till somebody leaves in order to get a promotion, or somebody quits or retires and things like that. We don't need anybody to quit or retire in order for you to become a GS 14 here. As long as you're being successful in your production and your quality, then you will get those promotions. And that's totally different, and it's pretty awesome. Next slide, please. So we have a really extensive training program here. And I want you to know that you don't have to, like, if you're sitting here thinking, oh, geez, I don't have a law background, or I've never done hands-on engineering. We need you to be an engineer or scientist, to have a degree in engineering science that's in line with what's in the vacancy announcement. But we teach you all of the stuff you need to be a successful patent examiner here. That's sort of different than other jobs. The first 2 months you're in the office, we're giving you training every day. We're teaching you the 4 statutes that we use to examine. We're teaching you how to search. We're teaching you how to read claims. We're teaching you how to read the specification. We're teaching you everything. You're in a peer group at that moment where you're all learning at the same time the different things, and I'm sure you're doing large group exercises, small group exercises. You're doing all these things during that first 2 months, and then you're placed in your art unit, which is a small group of people that all work on the same technology, and the training does not stop. So I like to equate patent examination to an apprentice blacksmith and a master blacksmith. So the first day, the apprentice blacksmith shows up in the blacksmith shop, and he's all excited, or she's all excited, whoever's all excited, and they're like, hey, I want to make some horseshoes. And the master blacksmith's like, okay, sure, here's some metal, here's your anvil, go over and make some horseshoes for this horse. The apprentice is excited. They go over, they grab their metal, they beat up their horseshoes. They come back, they're like, hey, I made horseshoes. And the master blacksmith is like, well, those are horseshoe shaped, but this is too thick, this is too thin, this is going to hurt the horse. We need you, we're going to have to do some modifications to this. And that's a ton like patent examination. At the beginning of your career, you're running everything through a senior person. And you're saying, hey, I found this piece of prior art. I'd like to use this as a rejection for this patent application. And they're going, okay, or this doesn't work, or you might have to change the way you're looking at this. You're saying, I'm not sure how this invention works. The senior person is giving you feedback. You're writing off sections. The senior person is giving you feedback. There's a ton of feedback in those first several years of your career. And then as you progress up the GS scale, so every time you get those promotions, again, I was talking about earlier, you have a little more responsibility. You're responsible for those things. And the senior person is giving you less feedback, but there's still somebody there giving you feedback throughout your career. And that's really important to know. So every time you get feedback from somebody, you're getting a little bit better, right? And every time you're getting a little bit better, you're getting a little bit faster. So then every time you get a promotion, you can produce a little bit faster. So there's a continual learning experience here at the office, continual training. There's that sort of informal training where it's one-on-one with a mentor, and we have training programs that are set out in the office especially throughout the first year and throughout your career, where we go back and we talk about different topics, examination topics all the time. So the training in the office is really extensive, and it's really important to making sure people are developed correctly so we can have quality examination throughout their time here in the office. Next slide. So here are some of the benefits. We have that Patent Training Academy that I was talking about, the promotion potential up to a GS14, flexible work schedules. There's the career growth opportunities I was talking about, where they're not just in examination. We have temporary work assignments and details and things like that, where you can do different things. We have law school tuition reimbursement. We have advanced technical degree reimbursement. There's just a lot of things, the 401k, there's lots of things, benefits of being an examiner here at the USPTO. Next slide. We have a bunch of on-campus amenities here in Alexandria. So these positions are located here in Alexandria, Virginia, on our main campus. We have an on-campus fitness center. We have an on-campus health unit. So there's like nurse practitioners that are here all the time. So if you aren't feeling well, you need to go get a flu shot, whatever it is, they're here. They can help you. You don't have to go off campus. It's really convenient. There's a cafeteria here that serves 3 meals a day, I think. There's micro markets, like little stores within the buildings where you can go get a snack if you want. We're right next to the metro. There's convenient parking. It's a really nice campus. It's really pretty. I'll be honest with you. I know I've been coming here for years, and I have a special place in my heart for this campus. But it's a very pretty campus, and it's really nice. I'm biased for sure. Next slide. So now we're going to start talking about, and I'm going to introduce my peer here in a second. We're going to start talking about becoming a patent examiner, how to apply, and things like that. Which is, I'm sure, the part that you're the most interested in for sure. Next slide. So this is a slide that shows the skill set that we look for when we're looking for patent examiners. Obviously, we need a strong technical background. So that's somebody, an engineer and scientist, we need that. You have to be able to understand the applications when they come in the door, right? This is an attention to detail job. You have to be able to look at how a drawing works, or how something fits together, or how a circuit works. And you have to be able to tell the difference between that and something that's been invented before. So that's really important. We need excellent writing and oral skills, excellent writing. And that has to do with the office sections that you write to the applicant, but it also has to do with how you correspond with your peers and how you correspond with your mentors and your supervisors. You have to be analytical, strong decision-making. What's not shown here is, so the most important thing is your ability to manage your time down at the bottom. I mentioned this earlier about the production-based environment. You have to produce a certain amount every 2 weeks. that just never goes away as a patent examiner. Now, it's reduced by the amount of hours that you might work. Like if you're on vacation, we don't expect you to produce for those hours, but that and you develop that mechanism to be able to produce a certain amount over time. It takes a while to get there. We understand you have to develop, especially in that first year. But that time management skill is hyper critical to being successful in the office. But I also want, it's not in this picture, I also want folks who are naturally curious. They want to know how things work and how things fit together, why they do things, why they work. So I think that's a really important skill to have as an examiner, because somebody's presenting their invention to you, you're having discussions with them through the examination process, you're reading what they're writing about, their arguments back to you about why something is or is not allowable. And you have to sort of be naturally curious to be like, oh, is that true? Why is that? Why are they saying that? That's a really, really important skill that I try to look for in the applicants that I choose. So now I'm going to hand it off to my esteemed colleague, Michelle Martin. I'm really excited to hear what she has to say. So please take it away, Michelle.
Thank you, John. This has been so good to hear what you guys do every day. Of course, we work together closely, but different sides of the house. So today we'll talk a little bit more about the requirements, and we're talking about the minimum quals. We're talking about core requirements and educational requirements, things of those natures. I see a lot of those questions in the chat, and we will get to those shortly. Um, so one of the first things we have on our slide is about the employment requirements. So as you'll see, there are two major core requirements for applicants. Very easy. You must be a U.S. citizen or national, and you must hold a technical degree. Can you all hear me well? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, perfect. And you must hold a technical degree. One of the things we have in the vacancy announcement is a little bit of detail about the particular discipline you're applying for. So each discipline, their technical degree will match with that discipline, and you'll be able to match up what education you have to see which position you should apply for. So, there are dozens of STEM-related bachelor degrees. We know that you guys have a lot of various educational backgrounds. We have devised this handy-dandy crosswalk, which you'll hear us mention later on, and what's in the job announcement, where you can see where your degree matches the needs of the agency. So within the link below, you'll see, find out which vacancy fits your background best. Please click on that and see where your education meets our needs for the position. One of the great things we also have, oh yeah, this is the discipline list. So we have the various jobs. I think it's 9 this time. You'll be able to see within each vacancy announcement what we require for the biology position, what we require for the chemistry position. And if you have specific questions, we can't give you a pre-qualification review, but we can answer some questions. And we have a join USPTO mailbox, which is listed at the bottom of our vacancy announcement, that can answer some general questions about the quals if you have questions. We can't do a pre-screening, like I said. We can't tell you, will you qualify by you sending us your announcement through that mailbox, but we can answer general questions. And the HR specialist on my team will get back to you as soon as they can with that requirement, with your answers. You'll also see here that we do have recruitment incentives. Some call them sign-on bonuses or recruitment incentives. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the later on. You'll see that in the announcement too. So one of the main things that may be a little different for you this year is how we're announcing our jobs. There's something called delegated examining, which is how we open up announcements from the public. So we want your applications, and you can, apply if you meet the U.S. citizenship and the technical quals. But what you can do to search on our jobs, a few things you can do. You can search patent examiner. You can search biology. You can search chemistry. You can search USPTO, and you'll be able to see all the vacancies we have available for you. And that's how you will apply. But you must have a USA Jobs account. Like I said, we cannot accept resumes through an application, email box, any of those things. And there in the announcements, you'll see, for instance, the electrical, computer engineering, and computer science are offering the recruitment incentive. But you'll see that when you go into the vacancy announcement. The vacancy announcements are we try to write them in plain language, so they're very clear for you. But again, if you have any questions, at the bottom of the announcement, you'll see the Join USPTO email box, and we can answer more of your questions there. Of course, we talked about the hiring paths. The job is announced and open to the public. That means if you are a veteran, a Schedule A disability candidate, if you are a prior government employee, you can apply to this position. We will determine where you fall within your considerations. So those that are surplused or displaced from other unfortunate events across the government, you can apply as well. Anyone can apply. It doesn't mean that you'll automatically be qualified, but you can apply to this position. As you may have seen in other vacancy announcements, I know a lot of people are very familiar with our patent examiner announcements. We know you're used to seeing things a certain way. Things have changed a little bit with this administration. So one of the major changes is how we announce the position. You may have in the past seen where the hiring path specifically said open to individuals with disability, open to veterans, open to military spouses. It is indeed open to those. But being open to the general public allows you all to apply if you met one of these hiring paths. You won't be able to search, like for instance, disability jobs and it pops up, but you for sure can search USPTO patent examiner and you can apply and will receive full consideration. If you are a veteran, you also can apply. You do have a special consideration mechanism where you can apply to our hire vet email box, which you may see that in our email as well. And many of you may know about that. It's hirevets@uspto.gov. Let's see real quick. I want to make sure I'm covering everything on this slide. And there's more information on hiring paths in general. That's the OPM definition that you're seeing on the screen. Again, if you have any questions about hiring paths or if you can be considered, our Join USPTO mailbox is the place to go. The hiring timeline. I think this is one of the most asked for questions in our chat already. So these are our proposed timelines. Of course, things are out of our control sometimes. Sometimes John and selecting officials need a little bit more time or less time to get through the tons of applications we receive, which we are so fortunate to have these vacancy announcements open even after some of the hiring freezes you have seen. So this is subject to change. I mean, don't hold us to it to the day, but this is where we stand right now with our hiring timelines. We know the vacancies are open with multiple cutoff dates. Depending on when you apply, you would be considered in a close-off period. So for instance, you'll see the next close-off period is July 16th. If you apply between now and then, you'll be in that what we call the first cutoff period. If you apply on the 17th, you'll be in that next cutoff period that's going to close on August 25th. And that is where your timeline count should come from, the cutoff date. So after the position or the vacancy announcement has its first cutoff period, July 16th, we will be reviewing applications. Within those 2 week periods, we'll be looking at each of your application package, which could be hundreds. So our specialists are looking at them to determine your minimum qualifications. After that happens and we are referring you to a certificate, then the hiring official finally is able to look at your application package. They cannot look at it a day before. When they're looking at your application package, they're also looking at the responses you may have left on the hire view interview. So you probably are getting those invites, and some may have noticed a lot sooner than you've ever seen before because we've changed our process a little bit. If we in HR determine that you're basically qualified, we're going to send you a hire view interview invitation right away. And you can leave that response as soon as possible. It's an on-demand interview. You can leave it at 12 o'clock at night. You can leave it on a Saturday. You can leave it on a Sunday, any day. We do ask that you try to get through that hire view interview as soon as possible, because what happens is when John and others get the certificate, your interview is waiting for them. It's giving them extra time to review your package. So please leave those right away. But it still takes our hiring official at least 4 to 6 weeks to get through all of your applications, get through all of your interview. And believe me, they are looking at each one and they're reading through each line. So it's just, it takes a little bit of time. Once that's done, after the 6th week, that's when we get the selections back from the hiring officials. When we get those back, then that's when we're starting to call you all. So, we're extending job offers and we try to do it verbally. It depends on how many we're receiving and how fast we can get a verbal phone call in. Of course, it's much quicker to shoot an email to your address on file. So sometimes we'll do that right away because we want to get in touch with you right away. So again, that's what takes up the time in the 10-week timeline period. After you get a call from us, whether it's for a referral for selection or tentative job offer or invitation to a higher view, it is so important that you do it as quickly as possible because we don't want to necessarily push you to the next cutoff period. But we will allow that, but again, of essence, we're trying to onboard people in the August EODs as soon as possible in our September EODs, because we have some fiscal year goals we like to meet, and we need your help to meet those goals. So your timeliness helps us get our superstar awards on our team. And we can answer more questions if you have them in the chat about that. Okay, so we have some great websites. We have some great marketing material all through our PTO intranet. No, it's called internet sites for you all. We have the intranet. Y'all have the internet. So please visit our uspto.gov/jobs website. There you can find a lot. All of the stuff that John spoke about, some of the stuff I've spoken about is on this website, and we update this periodically. So please browse through here, read some employee testimonials. We have career pages, our student programs, as you can see, and we also have Navigating USA Jobs, which we try to make sure that we give you guys the most up-to-date information on there. And you can always check the status of your application on USA Jobs. You can always go there and it'll tell you whether you're selected, not selected, but we're reaching out to you. We have many notifications to you all. You probably already received at least 2 from us. You received that we received your application, and then you may have heard about the shutting down of that one vacancy announcement, which we had to reopen. And we can talk about that a little bit later if those questions come up in the chat.